Mark Sach, later on in this month of March, you have music of Burt Bacharach here at the Tilbury Community Centre. Tell me about your love of the music of Burt Bacharach.
I think my love of Burt Bacharach and his music is born through years of listening to music in general. Growing up with music of the 60s, you listen to the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, Kinks, and then that naturally leads to you having involvement in other sorts of music. And when you delve a little bit deeper into labels, record labels and things like that, you start noticing who writes the songs. And in amongst this legends of music, Lennon McCartney, Brian Wilson, Mike Love, Goffin and King, there was always a Bacharach and David. And I think a lot of people would have thought, it's Bacharach and David, you know, you don't see their names in the charts as in being the performers. And then when you read into it a bit more, you then find that there was a thing called the Brill Building in America with all these songwriters working in little cubby holes and knocking out all these great songs. Goffin and King, Might As Well Rain Until September, Neil Sedaka, all those people, hundreds and thousands of songs really coming out from this Brill Building. Bacharach and David was one of the key songwriting teams in that era. And then I suppose around 2005, I started to think to myself, well, if he's written that many songs, there must be thousands and thousands of songs that I have never heard by him that are probably brilliant. So I started to become a Bacharach collector. Yeah, so I bought this book that was a song-by-song breakdown of Burt Bacharach, basically listing every song he'd written or he's known to have written over the years, all put in like chronological order. So I thought to myself I would start collecting Bacharach, and it opened up a world of music I'd never heard. Film soundtracks, stage shows, B-sides for singles that the A-side was not written by him, but he'd write the B-side, and then his music production for stuff, you know. And so I started to collect it all. And I suppose that's when I started to form in my head the idea of doing a Bacharach tribute show. At the time, I was working with a 60s tribute band, and I floated it to the two guys in the band and basically said, look, why don't we do a Bacharach tribute show? Because we'd already performed and written a musical back in 1999 that we put on at Thameside Theatre and performed on Anglia TV. So I accepted, well, I thought the guys would just say, yeah, we'll do that, but they didn't want to know, basically. So it went on to the back burner for a few years, and then rolling forward, myself, my brother Bill and Eric Smith decided to form a company called Lonely World Music and Stage Productions to put on plays, musicals, all kinds of things, and we decided this would be our first show. It's actually going to be called Because It's a Lonely World, which is a line in one of the Bacharach songs. We thought that we'd do a few low-key shows to start with, because the ultimate goal is to put it in the theatres, hopefully all around the country, but to start with more in the southeast.
So it's not just yourself on stage, there's a few?
No. We have a band of 7 musicians, myself included, and every one of them is brilliant. They're all readers. They could literally read fly muck off a sheet. Brilliant musicians. And the singers, professional. We're given a chance to 1 or 2 people that had never really sung on major shows before, but have performed vocally in musical productions like musical theatre, but not necessarily done a pop show like this. So we've got 7 band members and 7 singers, so it's a cast of 14. And then we're going to use backdrops and other props and things like that to basically tell the story of Burt's music from the beginning through to the end. Or not so much the end because he's still alive, but the songs that he's known for. But what we wanted to make a little bit different with our show, because there's been 2 or 3 travelling Bacharach shows, is that we wanted to do a connoisseurs section where the people that really love Burt Bacharach will come along and go, oh, I never thought I'd hear that in the show. Because most people will stick to the hits, and there's quite a lot of hits. But what we wanted to do was just make it a little bit different by pulling out a few connoisseur classics and basically performing songs that everybody would know. So it'd be a great evening's entertainment for everybody. The problem with some of the other Bacharach shows that we're not going to fall into is that some of them are a musical director that takes the printed music and the lyrics, puts a band together, and basically throws a show out there that everybody would go, oh, I know that song, that sounds good, but whose version is that? That's not a version, I don't know that version, you know. And we recently went to a show where that was exactly what happened. We was all watching this show, it had all the hits, but not one of them could you actually say was, had any emotional content of any sort. They were just bang, Magic Moments, bang, it's Story of My Life, bang, Just Don't Know What to Do with Myself, bang, all thrown out, no emotion whatsoever. What we've specifically done for this show is to go through Burt's catalogue, pick out the version that we think is the most emotional and best version, you know, because with Burt Bacharach is in a unique position of being a songwriter that in America, all his hits are by Tommy Hunt, Jerry Butler, Dionne Warwick, and the likes of people like that. In England, the same songs are hits for Cilla Black, Dusty Springfield, Tom Jones. So you got two completely different worlds of songs that were hits in America and songs that were hits in England. And what we've tried to do is go through, pick out what we thought was the most emotional version or better version, because some of the songs are unbelievable. I'll give you a good example. Close to You by the Carpenters. Everybody knows it by the Carpenters, 1970, you know. But it was originally written in 1963 and was the B-side of a single by, of all people, Richard Chamberlain. And there's nothing like the Carpenters version. It starts off with this big, why do birds? And it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But fast forward to 1970 in the Carpenters version, which is what the hit single. So obviously we've gone with the Carpenters version. Sometimes you can hear versions of songs that can throw you. We was originally going to do Anyone Who Had a Heart in the Cilla Black version. But July of last year, me, Bill and Eric went to see Burt Bacharach in concert at the Royal Festival Hall. And Burt done an absolutely brilliant version of Anyone Who Had a Heart in the style that he wanted to perform it, which was absolutely brilliant. Nice subtle strings, he was with a 40-piece orchestra, and it was absolutely amazing. So we thought to ourselves, that's the version we're going to go with. We wanted to try and keep the show in probably the spirit that Burt would have written the songs. Another great song is On My Own, Patti LaBelle and Michael McDonald. Everybody knows it as this sort of like talk song to pick that. But there's a great version by a Dutch female vocalist called Trinte Oosterhuis, I think her name is. And she does this solo acoustic guitar version. As soon as we heard it, we thought, that's the version. That's the way Burt would have written the song. It's more emotional, the lyrics are fantastic, and it hits you in the heart, because Burt's is emotional music.